The faucet dripped like a metronome, keeping time to my misery. 3 drops, pause, 3 drops, pause. I lay under the kitchen sink at midnight, wrench in hand, wondering how my life had become a series of small repairs that never quite fixed anything. "Jack, are you still under there?" Lila's voice floated down from above, tinged with that particular brand of impatience she reserved for anything that didn't involve chakras or Instagram likes. "Yeah, just trying to stop the bleeding," I muttered, though I wasn't sure if I meant the pipes or my dignity. Water dripped onto my forehead with perfect timing, as if the universe had a sense of humor about my situation. Lila's bare feet appeared in my peripheral vision, perfectly pedicured toes painted in what she called enlightened coral. Everything about Lila had a spiritual name these days. Her yoga mat was transcendent teal, her smoothies were mindful mango, and her lies were probably conscious deceptions. "I need to talk to you about something important," she said, and I could hear her shifting from foot to foot. In our 3 years together, I'd learned that this particular dance meant she was about to drop something big on me. I slid out from under the sink, wiping my hands on an old t-shirt that had seen better decades. Lila stood in our kitchen wearing her favorite yoga outfit, the one that cost more than my monthly beer budget, with her phone clutched in her manicured hands like a security blanket. "What's up?" I asked, though part of me already knew I didn't want to hear the answer. She took one of those deep, theatrical breaths she'd learned in her meditation classes. "I've been thinking about my spiritual journey lately, and I feel like I need to reconnect with some important people from my past." Here we go, I thought. Lila's spiritual journey had been an ongoing project for the past year, ever since she'd discovered that talking about chakras and posting sunset yoga poses could get her more Instagram followers than her previous hobby of complaining about everything. "Travis reached out to me," she continued, and my stomach dropped like a stone. Travis, the ex-boyfriend with the man bun and the trust fund, who owned a high-end fitness club downtown and drove a Tesla he'd named Karma. I wasn't making that up. He's organizing a yoga retreat up in the mountains, and he invited me to join. It's a small group, very intimate, focused on healing old wounds and finding inner peace. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline that never came. "You want to go on a yoga retreat with your ex-boyfriend?" "It's not like that, Jack. This is purely spiritual. Travis and I have both grown so much since we were together. We're different people now, focused on higher consciousness and emotional healing." The faucet chose that moment to let out a particularly loud drip, as if even the plumbing was skeptical. "When is this retreat?" I asked, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "This weekend. I know it's short notice, but these opportunities for growth don't come along often. Travis says the energy is perfect right now, with the moon phase and everything." I nodded slowly, processing this information. Lila was going on a romantic getaway with her ex-boyfriend and calling it a spiritual retreat. The same Travis who used to send her shirtless gym selfies with captions like, "Thinking of you during my workout." The same Travis who had tried to win her back 6 months ago by showing up at our apartment with a bouquet of organic kale. "Namaste," I said finally. "Have fun." Lila blinked, clearly expecting more of a fight. "Really? You're okay with this?" "Why wouldn't I be? If it's purely spiritual, then there's nothing to worry about, right?" She smiled, the kind of bright, relieved smile that made her look like the girl I'd fallen in love with, before she'd discovered that enlightenment was more profitable than honesty. "Thank you for understanding, Jack. This means so much to me. I knew you'd get it." I watched her bounce out of the kitchen, already texting furiously on her phone, probably sharing the good news with her yoga circle about how evolved and understanding her boyfriend was. The faucet dripped again, and I realized I still had work to do. The next morning, Lila was in full retreat preparation mode. She'd spread her entire yoga wardrobe across our bed, creating what looked like a rainbow explosion of athletic wear. Sports bras in every color imaginable, leggings that probably cost more than my work boots, and enough crystals to stock a New Age gift shop. "Do you think I should bring the rose quartz or the amethyst?" she asked, holding up two rocks that looked identical to my untrained eye. "Why not both? You never know when you might need emergency crystal backup," I said, pulling on my work clothes. I had a construction site to manage, which seemed refreshingly straightforward compared to the metaphysical crisis happening in our bedroom. Lila shot me a look. "You don't have to be sarcastic about my beliefs, Jack." "I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being supportive. There's a difference." She went back to her packing, muttering something about masculine energy and blocked chakras. I was tying my boots when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a text message, and I couldn't help but glance over. Travis. "Can't wait to see you again, babe." It's been too long. This weekend is going to be amazing. I stared at the screen for a moment, then looked at Lila, who was completely absorbed in choosing between two nearly identical yoga blocks. The phone buzzed again. "Travis, I've missed you so much. We have so much to catch up on. Bring that little black thing I like." I was pretty sure he wasn't talking about a meditation cushion. "Your phone's buzzing," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "Oh, probably just Travis confirming the details," Lila said without looking up. She grabbed the phone and quickly swiped away the notifications. "He's so organized about these retreats." "Very professional, right." I finished getting dressed and headed for the door. "I'll be home late tonight. Big deadline at the Morrison project." "Okay, honey. I'll probably be out with the girls doing a pre-retreat cleansing ceremony." I paused at the doorway. Cleansing ceremony? Fiona's idea. We're going to release negative energy and set intentions for the weekend. Very important spiritual work. Fiona was Lila's best friend and fellow yoga instructor, a woman who could find spiritual significance in a grocery list. If Fiona was involved, this whole thing was probably going to end up on social media with hashtags like #BlessedJourney and #TrustTheUniverse. "Sounds intense," I said. "Have fun with that." I spent the day at the construction site trying to focus on concrete and steel instead of the growing knot in my stomach. My crew was good, experienced guys who knew their jobs and didn't need much supervision. That left me with too much time to think. By lunch, I'd run through every possible scenario in my head. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe Travis really had evolved into some kind of spiritual guru who was above petty things like trying to steal his ex-girlfriend back. Maybe those text messages were perfectly innocent, and I was just being paranoid. But then, I remembered the last time Travis had tried to reconnect with Lila. He'd shown up at her yoga studio with a $200 bouquet and a speech about how he'd found himself through meditation and realized she was his soulmate. Lila had come home that night glowing with attention, talking about how sweet it was that he'd grown so much as a person. I'd suggested that maybe Travis was just trying to get back in her pants, and Lila had accused me of being jealous and spiritually immature. We'd fought about it for 3 days before she finally agreed to stop responding to his messages. Apparently, that agreement had expired. I got home around 7 to find the apartment empty except for a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to cleansing ceremony. Don't wait up. Love you. L." The note was decorated with little hearts and smiley faces, which somehow made it worse. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat down on the couch, staring at the wall where Lila had hung a tapestry depicting some kind of meditation scene. A woman in lotus position surrounded by floating crystals and inspirational quotes about inner peace. That's when I noticed Lila's phone charger plugged into the wall outlet next to the couch. Her backup charger, which meant she'd taken her good charger to Fiona's house, which meant she'd be there for hours, posting photos of herself looking serene and enlightened. I was reaching for the TV remote when I heard a key in the front door. "Jack? Are you home?" Lila's voice called out. "In here," I called back, surprised. "I thought you were cleansing until midnight." She appeared in the living room doorway, looking flustered. "I forgot my phone charger." "The good one. My phone's almost dead and I need it for the ceremony." She rushed over to the outlet and unplugged the charger, wrapping the cord around her hand with practiced efficiency. In her hurry, she knocked her purse off the couch, spilling its contents across the floor. "Damn it!" she muttered, dropping to her knees to collect the scattered items. Lip gloss, crystals, breath mints, and her phone, which had fallen face up with the screen unlocked. I couldn't help but see the text message thread that was open on the screen. Travis's name at the top, and a conversation that definitely wasn't about yoga poses. Travis, I can't stop thinking about last Tuesday. You were incredible. Lila. We have to be careful. Jack can't find out. Travis. After this weekend, we won't have to hide anymore. You can finally be with someone who understands your spiritual needs. Lila. I know, baby. I just need a little more time to figure out how to tell him. I stared at the screen, the words blurring slightly as my brain tried to process what I was seeing. Last Tuesday. I'd been working late that night, hadn't gotten home until almost 10. Lila had said she'd been at a yoga workshop. Got it, Lila said, snatching the phone off the floor and shoving everything back into her purse. She looked up at me with a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Crisis averted. Can you imagine trying to set intentions without proper documentation? Yeah, I said slowly. That would be a real tragedy. She kissed me on the forehead, a quick, distracted peck that felt like a goodbye. I'll be home late. Don't wait up. And then she was gone, leaving me alone with the knowledge that my girlfriend was cheating on me with her spiritually evolved ex-boyfriend and planning to dump me after their romantic yoga retreat. I sat there for a long time, staring at that meditation tapestry, thinking about the difference between inner peace and inner rage. The faucet in the kitchen started dripping again. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Lila breathe beside me when she finally came home at 2 a.m, smelling like incense and lies. She'd slipped into bed quietly, probably thinking I was asleep, and curled up on her side of the mattress like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I just wasn't sure she knew that I knew it yet. By morning, I'd made my decision. Lila was up early, bustling around the apartment in her pre-trip excitement. She'd laid out her retreat outfit the night before. Designer yoga pants that cost more than my monthly grocery budget, a sports bra that somehow managed to be both athletic and attractive, and a flowing cardigan that screamed, spiritual but make it, fashion. I'm so excited about this weekend, she said, braiding her hair in the bathroom mirror. Travis says the retreat center is absolutely magical. It's right on a lake, very secluded, perfect for deep spiritual work. Sounds romantic, I said, brushing my teeth. Spiritual, she corrected. This is about healing and growth, not romance. Right, my mistake. She shot me a look in the mirror. You're being weird, Jack. Is everything okay? I rinsed and spit, taking my time with the answer. Everything's fine, just tired. Long week. Well, maybe this weekend will be good for both of us. You can have some guy time, and I can focus on my inner journey. Yeah, maybe I'll do some inner work of my own. After Lila left for her morning yoga class, I called in sick to work. My foreman, Pete, didn't ask questions. I'd been with the company for 5 years and had maybe used 3 sick days total. I had some credibility in the bank. Then I sat down at my laptop and got to work. First stop, our lease agreement. We'd signed a year-long lease 6 months ago with both our names on it. But there was a clause I remembered from the signing. Either party could terminate the lease with 30 days' notice and forfeit the security deposit. Lila had insisted on that clause because she'd read somewhere that flexibility was important for spiritual growth. Funny how spiritual growth worked out sometimes. I logged into the property management website and filled out the termination notice. 30 days from today, which meant Lila would have exactly 1 month to figure out her living situation. Plenty of time for a spiritually evolved person to manifest a new apartment. Next, I started researching Travis. Social media made it easy. The guy documented his entire life online. His Instagram was a carefully curated collection of shirtless gym photos, motivational quotes about success and abundance, and pictures of his Tesla parked in front of various upscale establishments. But it was his Facebook that gave me the real dirt. Travis wasn't quite as careful with his privacy settings there, and a little digging revealed some interesting information. Like the fact that he'd been tagged in photos with at least 3 different women over the past month, all of them young, fit, and apparently unaware of each other's existence. One of them was Lena, another yoga instructor who sometimes filled in at Lila's studio. A woman Lila considered a friend. I screenshotted everything. By the time Lila came home from her morning class, I was back in my work clothes, looking like I'd just gotten home myself. "How was class?" I asked. "Amazing." The energy was so pure today. I think everyone could sense that I'm about to embark on a major spiritual journey. I bet they could. She started packing her weekend bag, folding each item with the kind of care usually reserved for religious artifacts. I watched her pack the little black thing Travis had mentioned, a silk nightgown I'd bought her for Valentine's Day. "That's a nice choice for a spiritual retreat," I said. "Oh, this? I just like to sleep in something comfortable when I'm in a new place. Helps me feel centered." "Makes sense." She zipped up her bag and checked her phone. "Travis will be here in an hour to pick me up. His Tesla is so much better for long drives than your truck." "Definitely more spiritually aligned," I agreed. She laughed, thinking I was joking. An hour later, I watched from the living room window as Travis pulled up in his white Tesla. He was exactly as I remembered him, tall, lean, with that man bun that somehow managed to look both spiritual and pretentious at the same time. He was wearing linen pants and a tank top that showed off his gym-sculpted arms. Lila practically bounced down the stairs to meet him, her weekend bag slung over her shoulder like she was heading off to summer camp instead of a weekend of adultery disguised as enlightenment. I watched Travis get out of the car to greet her, pulling her into a hug that lasted just a little too long for something purely spiritual. His hands lingered on her lower back, and she melted into him in a way that made my stomach clench. Then they were gone, driving off toward their weekend of healing and growth, leaving me alone with my anger and my laptop. I gave them an hour to get out of town, then I got back to work. Moving Lila's stuff was easier than I'd expected. 3 years together, and most of her belongings fit into a dozen garbage bags and a few boxes. Clothes, yoga equipment, crystals, essential oils, and enough self-help books to stock a small library. I was careful with everything, folding her clothes neatly, wrapping her crystals in tissue paper so they wouldn't get damaged. This wasn't about destroying her stuff, it was about making a point. By evening, everything was stacked neatly on the front porch, protected by a tarp I'd borrowed from work. I'd even made a sign, "Free to good home, one spiritual journey's worth of belongings." Namaste. Then I went inside, cracked open a beer, and waited for the fireworks to begin. The first text came at 9:47 p.m. on Saturday night. "Jack, what the hell is my stuff doing on the porch?" I was at Murphy's bar with my best friend Ben, watching the Red Sox lose to the Yankees and trying to pretend I was having a normal Saturday night. Ben was a good friend, the kind of guy who didn't ask too many questions when you showed up at his door with a 12-pack and a story about needing to get out of the house. "You gonna answer that?" Ben asked, nodding at my buzzing phone. "Nah, I'm busy watching us lose to New York. Very spiritual experience." The phone buzzed again, then again. By the time the 7th inning stretch rolled around, I had 14 unread messages from Lila. "Jesus, Jack, what did you do?" Ben asked, watching my phone light up like a Christmas tree. "I helped my girlfriend with her spiritual journey," I said, taking a long pull from my beer. "Very generous of me, really." Ben raised an eyebrow. "Want to elaborate on that?" So I told him. Everything. The yoga retreat that wasn't really a yoga retreat, the text messages, the cheating, the whole spiritual enlightenment scam that Lila had been running. "Damn," Ben said when I finished. That's cold, even for a yoga instructor. The best part is, she thinks I don't know. She's probably telling Travis right now about how understanding and evolved I am. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call, not a text. Lila's contact photo, a selfie of her in warrior pose at sunset, filled the screen. "You should answer that," Ben said. "This is better than cable." I swiped to accept the call and put it on speaker. "Jack!" "Thank God you answered. There's been some kind of mistake. All my stuff is on the porch, and there's a sign that says it's free. Did someone break into our apartment?" "No break-in," I said calmly. "Just some spring cleaning. Very therapeutic." There was a pause. "What are you talking about? Why is my stuff outside?" "Well, you said you were on a spiritual journey, and I figured you might need space to grow. So I gave you some space. About 30 days worth, actually." Another pause, longer this time. I could hear Travis's voice in the background asking what was wrong. "Jack, I don't understand. What do you mean, 30 days? "I terminated our lease. Figured since you're finding yourself and all, you might want to find yourself a new place to live too." The silence stretched out so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, "You can't do that. This is my home too. Was your home. Now it's just mine until the lease runs out. Don't worry though. I'm sure Travis can help you figure something out. He seems very supportive." "Jack, what is wrong with you? This is insane. You can't just kick me out because I went on a retreat." "You're right," I said. "Good thing that's not why I'm kicking you out." Ben was grinning at me from across the table, giving me a thumbs up. "Then why?" Lila's voice was getting higher, more panicked. "Because I can't stop thinking about last Tuesday," I said, quoting her text messages. "You were incredible." The silence that followed was deafening. "Jack, I can explain." "I'm sure you can." "You're very creative, but I don't think I want to hear it right now. I'm having a beer with Ben and watching the game. Very grounding experience." "This isn't over," she said, and the line went dead. Ben was laughing so hard he nearly choked on his beer. "Dude, that was brutal. Remind me never to cheat on you." "I'm not done yet," I said, pulling up Facebook on my phone. The night is young, and social media is forever. I'd been thinking about this part all day. Lila lived for social media. Her Instagram had over 5,000 followers, mostly people from the yoga community who hung on her every inspirational post about living authentically and following your truth. Time to help her live authentically. I started with a simple post in the local community group. Found some items on my porch that appear to belong to someone on a spiritual journey. Yoga mats, crystals, and what appears to be a meditation cushion shaped like a heart. If these belong to you or someone you know, please contact me. Items are free to anyone who can use them for their own path to enlightenment. Namaste. I tagged the post with Lila's Instagram handle and added a photo of her stuff neatly arranged on the porch. Within 10 minutes, the comments started rolling in. "Isn't that Lila's stuff? Wait, didn't she just post about going on a retreat with her ex? OMG, is this for real?" Plot twist. The spiritual journey was actually a journey to the curb. My phone started buzzing with friend requests and private messages from people I barely knew, all wanting the inside scoop on what was happening. The post was getting shared and commented on faster than I could keep track of. Ben was reading over my shoulder, cackling at the comments. "Look at this one. I guess she found her inner truth, and it was living on the porch." Social media is a beautiful thing, I said, accepting another friend request from someone whose profile picture was a golden retriever in sunglasses. My phone rang again. This time it was Fiona, Lila's best friend and partner in spiritual crime. "Jack, what the hell is going on? Lila is freaking out." "Hi, Fiona. How's the cleansing ceremony going?" "Don't play dumb with me." "Why is Lila's stuff all over Facebook?" "Because she left it on my porch and I'm trying to be a good neighbor." Very community-minded of me, don't you think? This is ridiculous. You can't just throw someone's belongings out on the street. I didn't throw them out. I carefully arranged them in an aesthetically pleasing manner, very feng shui. Jack, I know you're upset, but this isn't the way to handle things. Lila loves you. This retreat is just about personal growth. Personal growth, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it now? You're being paranoid. Travis is a spiritual teacher. He's helping Lila connect with her higher self. I'm sure he is. Probably connecting with it right now. Fiona sighed dramatically. I can't talk to you when you're being like this. But this isn't over, Jack. Lila has rights. Yeah, she has the right to remain spiritually enlightened, preferably somewhere else. After Fiona hung up, Ben and I ordered another round and watched the social media storm continue to build. The post had been shared 43 times and had over 200 comments. Someone had even created a hashtag, #Namest on the porch. You know what the best part is? Ben said, scrolling through the comments on his own phone. Half these people are from her yoga classes. They're all seeing this. Spiritual community, I said, raising my beer in a toast. Very supportive. My phone buzzed with another text from Lila. Please stop this. We need to talk. I showed the message to Ben, who shrugged. Up to you, man. But if it were me, I'd let her stew in it for a while. Actions have consequences, even on spiritual journeys. Wise words, I said, and turned off my phone. We stayed at Murphy's until closing time, watching my social media revenge unfold in real time. By the end of the night, the post had over 500 comments and had been shared in 3 different local Facebook groups. The best comment came from Mrs. Dorrance, my elderly neighbor, who apparently had more social media savvy than I'd given her credit for. Young man, I've been watching this drama unfold from my kitchen window, and I have to say, your porch arrangement shows real artistic flair. Very symmetrical. That girl always was too loud with her morning chanting anyway. When I finally got home, Lila's stuff was still on the porch, but someone had left a bouquet of dandelions on top of one of the boxes with a note, for your new spiritual journey. A concerned neighbor. I went inside, brushed my teeth, and slept better than I had in months. Sunday morning brought a new wave of chaos. I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. The Facebook post had gone viral in our small Maine city, with over 1,000 shares and comments that ranged from supportive to savage. My favorite was from someone named Karma Sutra Yoga Studio. We're hiring if anyone needs a new place to practice authentic living. Namest on the porch. I was drinking coffee and scrolling through the comments when someone started pounding on my door. Not knocking, pounding, like they were trying to break it down. Jack! Open this door right now. Lila. And she sounded pissed. I took my time finishing my coffee, then walked to the door and opened it slowly. Lila stood on my porch, still in her yoga retreat outfit, but looking significantly less zen than when she'd left. Her hair was a mess, her makeup was smudged, and she had the wild-eyed look of someone who'd spent the night crying and driving. Behind her, Travis leaned against his Tesla with his arms crossed, trying to look intimidating, but mostly just looking uncomfortable. His man bun was askew, and there was a coffee stain on his linen pants. We need to talk, Lila said, pushing past me into the apartment. Good morning to you too, I said. How was the retreat? Very spiritual, I hope. Cut the crap, Jack. What you did last night was cruel and humiliating. What I did was help you with your spiritual journey. I thought you'd be grateful. Travis appeared in the doorway, trying to project calm authority. Jack, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding here. Travis? Good to see you. How's the Tesla running? I heard electric cars are very environmentally conscious. Perfect for spiritual teachers. Look, I know this looks bad, but Lila and I are just friends. This retreat was about healing old wounds and connecting with higher selves. Yeah, I heard. Very touching story. Lila was pacing around the living room like a caged animal, her hands gesturing wildly as she talked. Do you have any idea what you've done? That Facebook post has been shared hundreds of times. People from my yoga classes are commenting. My students are seeing this. I thought you'd want to share your journey with your community. Very authentic of you. This isn't authentic, it's vindictive. You're trying to destroy my reputation over nothing. Nothing? I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd taken of her text messages. Let me refresh your memory. We have to be careful. Jack can't find out. Does that ring any bells? Lila's face went white. Travis took a step closer, his peaceful guru mask slipping slightly. You went through her phone? Travis asked. That's a serious violation of privacy, man. Actually, she dropped it. The screen was unlocked. I couldn't help but notice the conversation about how incredible she was last Tuesday. Very detailed spiritual discussion. Lila sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. Jack, please. Let me explain. Oh, I'd love to hear this explanation. Please, enlighten me. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. It's not what you think. Travis and we have a connection, yes, but it's spiritual. We're exploring what it means to love someone on a higher plane. Higher plane, I repeated. Is that what you call my bed? Travis stepped forward, his hands raised in what I assumed was supposed to be a calming gesture. Jack, I understand you're upset, but there's no need for hostility. We're all adults here. We can work through this with open communication and mutual respect. You know what, Travis? You're absolutely right. We are all adults. Which is why I'm sure Lila won't mind explaining to all her Instagram followers why she needed to explore higher planes of love with her ex-boyfriend while she was living with me. You wouldn't, Lila whispered. I wouldn't what? Tell the truth? I thought truth was important to spiritual people. My phone started ringing. Ben's name appeared on the screen. Excuse me, I said, answering the call. Hey, Ben. Dude, you need to get down to Murphy's, like now. Why? It's not even noon. Because half the town is here talking about your Facebook post, and Fiona just showed up with a whole crew of yoga people. They're planning some kind of intervention or something. It's about to get very interesting. I looked at Lila and Travis, both of whom were watching me with growing alarm. We'll be right there, I said, and hung up. We're going to Murphy's, I announced. What? Why? Lila asked. Because apparently your spiritual support network wants to have a public discussion about authenticity and truth. Who am I to deny them that opportunity? Jack, no, please. We can work this out privately. Privacy is overrated. Besides, you love sharing your journey with the community. This is just the next step. Travis tried to block my path to the door. This has gone far enough, man. You're hurting people now. I'm hurting people? I laughed. That's rich, coming from the guy who's been screwing his ex-girlfriend behind her current boyfriend's back. Very evolved of you, Travis. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Please explain it to me. Use small words so my spiritually immature brain can understand. Travis's peaceful facade cracked completely. You know what? Fine. Yeah, Lila and I have feelings for each other. Real feelings, not whatever this is. He gestured around the apartment. She's outgrown you, Jack. She needs someone who understands her spiritual needs, someone who can support her growth instead of holding her back. Holding her back, I repeated. By paying half the rent and fixing the faucet? By being small. By being ordinary. Lila is extraordinary, and she deserves someone who can match her energy. I nodded thoughtfully. You know what, Travis? You're absolutely right. Lila does deserve someone who can match her energy. Someone who's just as dishonest and self-absorbed as she is. Congratulations, you two are perfect for each other. Lila was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Jack, please don't do this. I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of having someone around to pay bills and fix things while you explore your spiritual connection with your ex-boyfriend, but that's okay, because I'm done being that guy. I grabbed my keys and wallet. Now, are you coming to Murphy's, or am I going to have to explain your spiritual journey to everyone without you there to provide context? The drive to Murphy's was tense. Lila rode with me, crying quietly and occasionally trying to start conversations that I ignored. Travis followed in his Tesla, probably listening to meditation music and trying to center his chakras or whatever spiritual teachers did when their secret affairs went public. Murphy's bar at noon on a Sunday was usually a quiet place, a few regulars nursing hangovers and watching whatever sports were on TV. But today, it looked like a town hall meeting. The parking lot was packed, and I could see people clustered around tables inside, all talking animatedly. "This is insane," Lila whispered as we pulled in. "These people don't understand what really happened." "Then maybe you should explain it to them," I said. Very therapeutic, I'm sure. We walked into Murphy's together and the entire bar went quiet. Every head turned toward us, and I could feel the weight of their collective stare. It was like walking into a movie where everyone else had already seen the ending. Ben waved us over to a large table in the back, where he was sitting with at least a dozen other people, including Fiona and several women I recognized from Lila's yoga classes. They all looked like they were ready for battle. "Jack!" Fiona stood up as we approached, her arms crossed and her expression stern. "We need to talk." "Great," I said, pulling out a chair. "I love group therapy sessions." This was about to get very interesting. The showdown at Murphy's was everything I could have hoped for and more. Fiona had assembled what looked like a spiritual intervention team: 5 yoga instructors, 3 massage therapists, and someone who introduced herself as a crystal healing practitioner. They'd arranged themselves around the table like a New Age tribunal, all flowing scarves and judgmental expressions. "Jack," Fiona began, her voice dripping with the kind of condescending patience usually reserved for toddlers having tantrums, "we're here because we care about you and Lila. What you did last night was a cry for help, and we want you to know that we hear you." "A cry for help," I repeated, settling into my chair. "That's an interesting interpretation." Ben was grinning beside me, clearly enjoying the show. The rest of Murphy's had gone back to their conversations, but I could tell they were all listening in. "Spiritual growth is painful," continued a woman with purple hair who'd been introduced as Moonbeam. "When our partners evolve beyond us, it can trigger our deepest insecurities and fears." "Moonbeam makes a good point," Travis said, sliding into the chair next to Lila. He'd apparently regained his spiritual composure during the drive over. "Jack, your reaction last night shows how much pain you're in, but lashing out isn't the answer." "Lashing out," I said, "by moving her stuff to the porch?" "By humiliating her publicly," Fiona snapped. That Facebook post was cruel and unnecessary. You know what was cruel and unnecessary? Lying to me for months while screwing her ex-boyfriend. The table went quiet. A few of the yoga instructors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "That's not what happened," Lila said quietly. "Travis and I have a connection, yes, but it's not what you think." "Really?" "Then explain the text messages. Explain last Tuesday. Explain why you packed a silk nightgown for a spiritual retreat." One of the massage therapists, a thin woman with multiple nose piercings, leaned forward. "Jack, even if there was some inappropriate contact, that doesn't justify public humiliation. There are healthier ways to process relationship conflicts." "Like what? Couples counseling with a side of adultery?" "Like honest communication," Travis said. "Like recognizing when a relationship has run its course and allowing people to move forward with grace and dignity." I stared at him for a moment, genuinely amazed by his audacity. Grace and dignity. From the guy who's been sneaking around behind my back for months. I wasn't sneaking. Really? Then why all the secrecy? Why the Jack can't find out texts? If this was all above board, Why didn't you just tell me you wanted my girlfriend back? Travis's peaceful mask slipped again. Because you wouldn't have understood. You would have reacted exactly like this, with jealousy and possessiveness instead of love and acceptance. You're right, I said. I wouldn't have understood why my girlfriend needed to explore her spiritual connection with another man. Call me old-fashioned. Fiona jumped back in. This isn't about old-fashioned versus progressive, Jack. This is about recognizing that love isn't ownership. Lila isn't your property. You're absolutely right. She's not my property. She's also not my girlfriend anymore, and she's not my roommate. Problem solved. But you can't just kick her out, protested another yoga instructor. She has rights. She has the right to find her own apartment. Preferably with someone who appreciates her spiritual journey. I turned to look at Travis. Speaking of which, I'm sure you'll be happy to help her with housing, right? Since you two have such a deep connection. For the first time since this whole conversation started, Travis looked uncomfortable. Well, I mean, my place is pretty small. Small? I pulled out my phone and showed them Travis's Instagram page, which featured multiple photos of his luxury downtown loft. This is small? The table went quiet again. Even Fiona looked confused. Travis? Lila said, her voice uncertain. You said we could figure something out after this weekend. We can, Travis said quickly. I just meant we should take things slow, you know? Make sure we're making decisions from a centered place. Centered, I repeated. Is that spiritual talk for, I don't want you moving in with me? Ben was barely containing his laughter now. This is better than reality TV, he whispered. I decided to go for the kill. Hey, Travis, while we're all being honest and authentic, why don't you tell Lila about Mina? Travis went pale. What about Mina? You know Mina. The other yoga instructor you've been exploring spiritual connections with. I'm sure Lila would love to hear about your deep, meaningful relationship with her too. I pulled up the Facebook photos I'd screenshotted, Travis and Mina at various restaurants and events, looking very cozy and very much like a couple. Lila grabbed my phone, scrolling through the photos with growing horror. Travis, what is this? Those are old photos, Travis said quickly, from before we reconnected. This one is from last week, Lila said, her voice getting higher. You told me you were at a meditation retreat last Wednesday. I was. Mina was there too. We were just supporting each other's practice. Supporting each other's practice, Lila repeated, her spiritual composure finally cracking completely. Is that what we're calling it? The intervention team was starting to look less confident in their mission. Moonbeam was staring at her crystal pendant like it might provide answers. Fiona was scrolling through her own phone, probably checking Travis's social media. This is exactly what I'm talking about, I said, addressing the table. You all came here to lecture me about grace and dignity and healthy communication, but none of you bothered to ask what actually happened. You just assumed I was the bad guy because I'm not spiritual enough to understand why my girlfriend needed to cheat on me. It wasn't cheating, Lila said weakly, but her heart wasn't in it anymore. What would you call it? She didn't answer. Travis tried to regain control of the situation. Look, everyone, this is getting out of hand. We're all saying things we don't mean. Actually, I mean everything I'm saying, I interrupted. I mean it when I say you're a hypocrite who preys on vulnerable women by pretending to be their spiritual guide. I mean it when I say Lila is a selfish person who uses spirituality as an excuse for bad behavior. And I mean it when I say I'm done with both of you. I stood up, pulling out my wallet. Ben, you want to grab some lunch somewhere else? This place is getting a little too enlightened for my taste. Absolutely, Ben said, standing up with me. As we headed for the door, I heard Fiona calling after us. Jack, wait! We're not done here. I turned back to face the table. Yeah, we are. You all came here to make me the villain in your little spiritual drama. But it turns out your guru is just another cheating asshole. And your friend is just another woman who thought she could have her cake and eat it too. There's nothing spiritual about that. It's just ordinary selfishness dressed up in yoga pants. I looked directly at Lila. Namaste, Lila. I hope you and Travis find what you're looking for. Just don't look for it in my apartment. Ben and I walked out of Murphy's to the sound of raised voices and accusations. Through the window, I could see the intervention team turning on Travis, demanding explanations about Mina and who knows what other spiritual connections he'd been cultivating. Damn, Jack, Ben said as we got in my truck. That was brutal. That was necessary, I replied. Some people only understand consequences. We drove to a diner across town and had lunch while my phone buzzed with increasingly frantic messages from Lila, Fiona, and various members of the yoga community. By the time we finished eating, the whole thing had exploded across social media. Someone had filmed part of the confrontation at Murphy's and posted it on TikTok with the caption, "Yoga teacher gets called out for cheating at local bar." It already had 50,000 views. The comments were savage. Namaste away from other people's boyfriends. Plot twist, the only thing she was stretching was the truth. This is why I stick to Pilates. My personal favorite, when keeping it spiritual goes wrong. 3 days later, Lila's stuff was still on the porch, but now it was joined by flowers, supportive notes, and someone's business card for a moving company. Mrs. Dorrance had started bringing me casseroles and updates on the neighborhood gossip. That Travis boy came by yesterday, she told me over coffee. Looked like he'd been crying. Very unprofessional for a spiritual teacher. What did he want? To talk to you, but I told him you were at work. Then I may have mentioned that several of the ladies from my book club have been asking questions about his business practices. Word travels fast in the yoga community, apparently. It did indeed. By the end of the week, Travis had lost 3 major corporate clients for his wellness seminars, and 2 yoga studios had canceled their contracts with him. Lila had been forced to resign from her teaching position after several students complained about her authenticity. The final blow came when Mina posted her own social media expose about Travis's spiritual manipulation tactics, complete with screenshots of their text conversations and photos of expensive gifts he'd given her. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd been taking screenshots. Travis's Instagram went dark. His Tesla appeared for sale on Craigslist with the description, "Karma finally caught up with me." As for Lila, she eventually came by to get her stuff, looking defeated and exhausted. She'd been staying with Fiona, who had apparently grown tired of housing a fallen spiritual influencer. "I hope you're happy," she said, as she loaded the last box into a borrowed pickup truck. "I'm getting there," I replied. "This isn't over, Jack. People will forget about this drama, and I'll rebuild my reputation." "Maybe. But they won't forget what you did, and neither will I." She drove away without another word, leaving me alone with my fixed faucet and my clear conscience. 3 months later, I ran into Ben at Murphy's. He was showing me photos of his new girlfriend when someone tapped me on the shoulder. It was Mina, looking happier and healthier than I'd ever seen her. "Jack, I wanted to thank you," she said. "For what?" "For exposing Travis. If you hadn't put all that stuff online, I might never have found out about Lila, and who knows how many other women. You saved me from wasting more time on that fraud." "Just returning the favor," I said. "Your expose post was epic." She laughed. "Well, sometimes the universe needs a little help with its karma delivery system." "Speaking of karma," Ben said, grinning, "did you hear about Lila's new job?" I raised an eyebrow. "She's working at a call center. Apparently, the yoga industry is smaller than she thought, and word travels fast. And Travis? Last I heard, he moved back in with his parents and got a job at a regular gym. No more spiritual teacher routine." I raised my beer in a toast. "To spiritual journeys and their unexpected destinations." "Namaste, sucker," Ben added, clinking his bottle against mine. As we sat there laughing, I realized that revenge really was a dish best served cold. But sometimes it was even better served publicly, with social media on the side and a healthy dose of community involvement. The faucet in my apartment never dripped again,